Welcome back to another Pop Culture Therapy. I'm Advent Nebula.
And I'm Cruellica Kain.
And this time we're doing a podcast episode with the therapy chair going on tabletop gaming. And I came up with this idea because I love tabletop gaming. I love the interaction it forces with you and other people. And when you think about it, it very much can help you improve your communication skills in the real world as well.
So, I actually have to say I find this topic fascinating. I was very happy when Advent Nebula brought it up because it made me think of a few of my friends, a few of our friends, but ones that I hang out with a little bit more, that are on the autistic spectrum. And while we're not going to go into a whole thing on disabilities or anything like that, but one thing I've noticed is that there's a high prevalence of individuals that either are socially awkward, which I think many people are, introverted, extremely extroverted, but don't know how to handle social situations very well, or possibly somebody who is on some sort of spectrum or has a disability. It's amazing how a simple thing as playing a game can bring together so many different types of people.
Exactly, and I go to meetup groups that do tabletop gaming, card games. I also like on the side watching Magic tournaments, or when I'm in a group of friends together, we'll get together and do Dungeons and Dragons, or we'll end up playing some of the White Wolf games like Werewolf or Vampire the Masquerade, which body language plays a big role with the characters because only the game master in White Wolf games truly knows your character's motivations. Nobody else at that table is going to know where you're going with that unless you've allied with one of those other characters.
Well, and even playing more simplistic tabletop games, some of the ones I enjoy playing can be like Mysterium or Settlers of Catan, where you have a social interaction. It's with a smaller group with Mysterium. If you ever get to look at that game, I'm so happy it was recommended to us because it's kind of like this murder mystery type game and you get to solve crimes. And you only can play with up to 8 people. So there's, unlike Dungeons and Dragons at times, there's a little bit more intimacy.
Yeah, exactly. And with Mysterium, you're having to work with other people at your table as well as yourself trying to figure out clues that are just visual aids. So you got to talk with each other, even though you're all trying to figure out the same mystery. Somebody in that is a traitor as well.
Exactly. And that's the one thing that's so fascinating. And when you're playing games, unlike when you're hanging out with your friends watching movies or just chit-chatting, which those are such powerful interactions that you have, there's a bonus that comes with playing games, especially if you're with your friends or if you're with people at like a convention and you're playing with a group of strangers. Just such a camaraderie that comes from it. And it really can help improve your confidence in being able to engage other individuals, or it can give you a sense of belonging. One thing I've noticed with one of our close friends is when he's playing a board game, he feels like he's belonging to the group. That because he has so much social awkwardness or so much fear of rejection, that when he's playing a game, he has an opportunity to do so without thinking about what other people think about me personally, without considering how the world is going to be outside of this game. It's focusing on the game, connecting with people, because while you're waiting for each person to take your turn, you're not just silently twiddling your thumbs. You can engage, you can have fun thinking up ways of how you can make your characters more real than anything. I know when we play Settlers of Catan, we absolutely turn it into an outright war. Chrysalid Bloodborne, or however he says it.
He is one of those that just wants to build the longest road. He's not in there to win the game. He's in there just to have the fun. Yet, at the same time, he always seems to be the one that ends up with all the sheep.
And Silverquill, whenever he plays a board game, it's always fascinating to watch it because he either goes into it with 100% level of fun, or he's the worst loser in existence. Kaiji no Kami.
In it to win it.
Oh, yes. 100%. It doesn't matter if he is last place. He will put every ounce of dedication to find some way, and more often than not he actually does, he will win the game. Whereas I myself, I am also a sore loser at times. I'm never ever going to deny that. But the one thing I love about when I play a game with complete strangers or people I know is I can just have fun in the moment. And I know this is kind of a random episode. It's just, we really wanted to highlight the positivity of something, because I know we've talked about so many fandoms recently, and we've highlighted so many negative points. I thought,
let's go with something that's going to highlight the positivity that this stuff can bring to our enjoyment in nerdy fandoms. And this is just one of those that does it. And for myself, I go into a lot of games, and she'll attest, I kind of take it as a strategy point, but I'm not a sore loser if I come out on top. Am I disappointed? Yes. But when I win, I end up gloating.
Oh yeah, he's a terrible gloater. So, sorry, it's random when you're just a random disembodied voice and you have to think about what you're going to say. But the benefit at the end of the day with tabletop gaming, which we really wanted to highlight first before we went anywhere else, is going to be the enjoyment of the game. If you're afraid of connecting with people, you're afraid of rejection, therapy chair-wise, you're afraid of not being able to fit in, we're all nerds. We're all nerds with different hobbies, as we expressed in our past podcasts for Star Wars and practically every other fandom out there. But the one thing that can really bring us together is a commonality. And it doesn't have to be a mutual commonality. Playing board games, or any type of tabletop gaming, any version that you can think of. It could be Cards Against Humanity. My lords, I have found ways to create random friendships with that game, which is terrible when you think about the game.
Exactly, but on the flip side of that, it's a fandom I'm not really into, but I go to cafes. We have one out here called Enchanted Grounds. They have Magic tournaments where I'll be there like playing a random pickup D&D game or some of the board games they have out there. But just looking at the full spectrum of the people that play Magic the Gathering just blows me away. You have business type people that are in their late 40s that you can tell were there when Magic launched, versus these kids that are like 18, 19 years old, or even some high school kids playing against each other, and they're having fun. It's really interesting to see how tabletop gaming just brings across 3 generations, basically.
Oh, absolutely. And another thing I think is important to highlight is if you want a way to test your skills, as we kind of referenced in our first podcast with friendship, using an outlet such as gaming, if that is your theme of choice, is a great way to meet new people and build those friendships. I imagine if Goku, utilizing him from our first podcast, had friends like that, I could see him so being a tabletop gamer. Not Vegeta, unless he was the DM.
He'd be the DM.
Because he'd have to control everything. But I could so see Goku, Bulma, and Krillin being down with tabletop gaming. They would be so good at Dungeons and Dragons. And think about it. They're in the DBZ universe. It would be perfect.
Yeah. And on another note, too, when it comes to, and I'm going to really specify this specifically to like Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, any of the White Wolf games, it sets you up for reading body language with people. It sets you up for being able to go in and talk to people. And it's a perfect way to actually train yourself on if you want to go in for a job interview or something and know how to talk to somebody, because that DM, Game Master, whatever they're called, is acting exactly like that. The person you're going to have to be in front of for an interview is going to be the same as that person there that's controlling your game.
That is an awesome way to look at it. And I'm the person who's in HR, and I didn't even think of that. That's brilliant. But no, that's a really good point. It gives you an opportunity to kind of think of how you would have peer-to-peer interactions. It would give you an opportunity of seeing how you can improve your own skills. And think of it alternatively, not only is it improving your own skills or anything like that, if that's what you need, but if you're like someone like myself who's extremely extroverted, who's extremely on the far end where I don't know social boundaries as well as other people should. So if you ever see me at a convention and you want to give me a hug, I can guarantee you I will never deny it, because I'm that touchy-feely sort of person.
You're the different type of extrovert from me.
Exactly. Obviously, I respect boundaries and privacy and things like that, but I'm a very affectionate person if somebody is open to that. I think we have to highlight that in this day and age.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, something like tabletop gaming with a bunch of strangers, or when we're doing it for events like Meetup or anything like that, meetup.com in your local area is a great resource. It gives me an opportunity to actually think, how can I hold myself back a little bit rather than being way too extra or way too much?
Yeah. And I've always recommended it for people that are on the introverted side, and even people that are on the autistic spectrum where they're very much able to go out there, like with Asperger's or something. Go to these meetup groups. It's going to give you an idea on how to get in and break out of your shell. A lot of these groups have a great mix of people. You aren't going to get bombarded with stuff unless it's a clique that's already well established. You're going to find a way, you're going to find yourself in there, and you're more than likely going to make friends that you probably would not be able to make if you just tried to go out there or just chatted online all the time.
Exactly. And while we definitely want people to have fun in all mediums of pop culture, because one, that's who we are. Pop culture is vital, especially for the nerd community. At the same time, the goal of our podcast, which is really pinnacled with this, and we have so much more to talk about in future podcasts, is we want people to feel happy. We want people to feel comfortable. We don't want any of you to feel isolated. And that's one of the reasons why we do this podcast, so that we give you an opportunity to hear from us. But at the same time, in the comment section, we can reciprocate and things like that. But we want you all to feel acknowledged. And one great way of doing that is going out there, finding friends, or going to a meetup and meeting new people and playing tabletop games. It's so much fun. And I personally think I don't know how I would have been able to meet a lot of the people I've met in Colorado if not for tabletop gaming. I joined a D&D group, and that allowed me to meet tons of people and really learn about the local culture, even if it is just the nerd community. Exactly.
I mean, it's a good idea when you end up transporting yourself to like a new city to kind of see what's out there. And this is what has made the internet and meetups so good, because for adults, making new friends is one of the hardest things you can find to do.
It sucks.
And you can get out there and communicate with people who are going to have a shared interest in something that you enjoy. And with that, you can find a common ground, be it Magic the Gathering, be it a tabletop game like D&D, be it just a regular board game like Settlers of Catan. I mean, these are popular games. They can get up and just get on there and communicate with each other. And then if you're really looking for a time, a lot of bars anymore have Cards Against Humanity night.
Or trivia night.
Or exactly, a trivia night where you can just get out and meet some new people and get in competitive fun with each other.
Oh, yes. So, it's so valuable to try new things. And that's, at the end of it all, why we wanted to highlight this. Because we want you to try something new. And we'd like you to share it in the comment section. What would you like to do that's out of the ordinary? Or do you like tabletop gaming? Do you have any groups? Do you have any suggestions for people who are not familiar on being able to get involved? We would really recommend doing more of the social interaction of face-to-face tabletop gaming. I know D&D, Cards Against Humanity, and so many others do have virtual platforms, but there's a sense of isolation with that. And I really would recommend, if you want to learn more about it, then definitely use the virtual platforms, but connect with people. It's amazing the things that you can find out when you connect with a complete stranger.
And with the online platforms, you just don't get that social interaction that's needed. Sometimes it's hard to learn the rules when you're just playing online. You're not also getting that ability to actually bluff or something, because some of these games, you really need that human interaction, that face-to-face. Just like when you're playing a game of poker. Yeah, you can play online and win money, but it's harder to tell when somebody's pulling your leg or not, as opposed to when you're in a real situation, in a real casino or a real place like that.
I agree. And before we get too preachy, which is always the fear when we're talking about something passionate,
Yep.
Let's reverse our track, and we're going to talk about mainly what we've done for the last couple of...
Well, it's been about 4 days, really.
Oh, yeah, it's been... Well, by the time this video is released, it'll be about a week, but in real time for the two of us, it's been 4 days since we last did this. So I figured we would change up the pace. Rather than just talking about our week in the beginning, we'd get to the topic. And we might do this every other time.
Yeah, it's really going to depend if we're going to start with the topic first or start with this. Really depending on what kind of subject we're going for first. With this one, for both of us, I think we came to the conclusion that we needed to hit the ballpark running with this topic being something that is going to benefit a lot of people in the therapy chair.
Absolutely. And so if you like this switch up for future podcasts, let us know. Otherwise, we're just going to flip-flop depending on the content. And I still want to do specific therapy chair sessions of actual characters. The reason why we haven't done one yet is because, one, it can be very complex because I'm still working on Jason Voorhees, but that means I have to rewatch all of his movies. Mm-hmm. Because I really, really want to do that, but I also want to be very conscientious of the fact that he's extremely developmentally disabled, so I need to make sure I don't say anything wrong that gets me inevitably in trouble.
Yeah. Gotta be careful with that one.
Another one I would like to do that I was thinking about that I'm going to tell you right now is Junko Enoshima.
Oh, yes. If you ever want to see a character that's batshit crazy, and definitely needs to be on a therapy chair for just the fact she decided to do something extremely horrible that caused the world to go batshit crazy as well, this is one that needs on there.
I think a semi-normal character, not going the extreme of a undead serial killer or...
somebody who wanted to watch the world burn.
I think another fun one for a therapy chair session that I've been pulling around in my head is actually Lena Inverse.
Oh, God, the epitome of true neutral. She'll do one thing great one day, next day... did she just pull the world and cause it to go after her again? Oh, yes, she did. Exactly.
Now, if you go in D&D terms, and if you are a D&D fan, you may understand this. I know it's in other games, but D&D really harnessed it. She is the perfect example of chaotic neutral. And I know for my D&D class, I'm actually chaotic evil, which still amazes me every day.
I'm neutral evil.
But, so those are some of the therapy sessions. Another one that we want to do as a topic for a full episode is actually understanding the different types of people based on anime and tokusatsu. Tokusatsu especially because there's such varied characters.
It's easier to go on there, especially with so many different series and so many different archetypes of characters you can build on.
And those are some of the few topics that we currently have mulling around in our heads now.
Yeah. But one character from video games I would really like to go in depth on too. Noctis.
Oh, Noctis, that poor...
Poor king.
Oh, yeah. When we do it, I will admit, even though the game's been out for over a year, I'd probably still do a spoiler warning for anyone who has not played the game. I definitely recommend, I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy fan in the universe, gaming-wise, but 15 by far was a great story.
Yep. And for me, another character, well, two characters that I personally want to do a therapy session on. Solid Snake and Big Boss.
Yeah, and they technically are two very different characters.
And both characters need their own therapy session.
Oh, yes. So if you, in the comment section, if you have any other characters you would really like to see therapy chair sessions on, we're definitely happy to do those segmented episodes. Same thing if you have any topics. One topic I would really like to do in the future, but I really want to hold off for the moment because it could be a very trigger happy topic, is bullying. Coming from not only the personal side, but also human resources for my professional world, I see a lot of bullying in varying scopes. And there's a lot of anime examples as well as Toku, books, movies. There's so many pop culture examples of how to overcome bullying, even if it's your own individualized bullying. But I think between the two of us, we really want to
both of us have that background on that as well.
Exactly. We really want to put a lot of effort into it, and I don't want to do it so close to a lot of negative things that have been happening online. If you're an anime fan, most specifically, or even a Brony fan, because I've seen some negative things there as well.
That's probably one episode we would hold off for. That'd be about 6 to 8 months down. Probably more likely when the new school year starts ramping up again.
Oh, that's a good point. We should plan for it around then, because that's the hardest part when you're starting a new transition for high school and for regular school, and college. But getting off the topic now, because we're crazy.
Yeah. Our weeks, basically. For me, finally started down it. Especially with the remasters coming out later this year. Starting from the very first game in the timeline. Today, started the Yakuza series. And I know I'm going to be at this for probably half the year now.
So, for me, this last week, in the world of pop culture, the one hated area is reality television. However, and I agree, I don't watch things like The Bachelor or any of those stupid love shows or The Survivor or half of the musical shows.
Half of these have been on forever.
However, there's 3 reality television shows I watch every time. Well, one of them is the first time, but I can guarantee you it's going to go on my regular rotation. First is going to be RuPaul's Drag Race. I love me some drag queens. I am such a huge fan of the creativity, even for them, because there's so much nerd culture in those, how many pop culture elements they can include on it, so...
And especially with drag queens, if you folks ever get a chance, go to Drag Queen Bingo Night. It'll be one of the most hilarious times you'll ever have, trust me.
And I can guarantee you, if you had any social awkwardness, they definitely are very calm, patient, but they will get you to participate. God damn you, they will get you to participate, which I love. The other thing is I watched The Masked Singer, which I know is in Korea and Japan, but it just finally came to the United States. And it's an interesting show. It's actually a great social allegory because some of these individuals that wear these outlandish costumes, and I'll have to post on my Twitter Joey Fantone's costume.
Oh,
and I am
God.
not an NSYNC fan by any means, but the cosplay he wore of a white rabbit in a straitjacket was so beyond awesome. The first time I saw it, I was like, I need that for an
Or
anime
LaToya
convention.
Jackson's Alien.
Oh, yes. And it was amazing because I knew LaToya Jackson could sing. And we're not going to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I've known that since Jackson 5, and I won't say how old I am. But they broke up by the time I was born, but still. And then you have Rumor Willis, who is Bruce Willis's daughter.
Yes.
She actually can sing.
She, I was reading up on her bio, she actually does do work on Broadway.
Exactly. So, The Masked Singer, the reason I'm mentioning the reality shows is one, because that's what I've been doing this past week, because it's either that or squealing about Fruits Basket.
Or the Oscars, which I didn't even bother paying attention to.
Oh, I'll get to the Oscars in a minute. But the other show that I watch is actually World of Dance. I love creativity. And World of Dance, you get to watch so many people in so many different locales do so many fantastic and stimulating. It's fascinating. And those are the types of things I love pop culture-wise when it comes to reality television. Because there's so much inspiration. Obviously, just like all reality television, there's scriptedness with it. You gotta take it or leave it. But outside of those, every announcement for the remake of Fruits Basket, I have been squealing or happy or a little sad about every voice actor announcement. I personally, anime-wise, cannot wait to see what they do when they now have a full completed manga that they're going to be recreating into an anime. I love the original anime, but it's going to be fascinating to see how they take these characters. Yep. And truthfully...
Well, and they also did mention they're going to do like what they did with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, with stuff that was already previously adapted, even though they're adapting the full manga. They're going to speed through certain segments so it's not a rehash at times.
Which makes sense.
Yes.
And it's only fair, because there's certain things that, yes, I would love to see broken out, but at the same time, you have to be cognizant of...
The fact that it's going to be only a 52-episode series adapting 25 volumes of manga.
23.
So they have some stuff that, yeah, it's understandable. They're going to speed through some stuff, but I have a feeling they're going to flesh out more of Kyo's arc, which did not get fleshed out enough in the original manga.
Not the way they did it in the anime. But one of these days, now thinking about it, I would love, and maybe we'll wait until after the anime series has been completed, or at least halfway through, I would love to do a podcast on Fruits Basket, because Fruits Basket is a perfect example of everything pop culture, social interactions, depression, anxiety, bullying, everything that you can think of that could happen in a human element. This particular anime delves into it in a very, very raw manner for being a shoujo manga series.
Oh, some of the topics are topics that you typically would see in a shonen or a seinen style, but it actually pulls it in there, and it's just amazing what was done with the original work. That, yes, especially I'd say probably about the halfway point around a certain character's reveal who they really are would probably be the best point to have this.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's actually a really good point, because that would bring in so many other things. And if you know the manga for Fruits Basket, you'll definitely know what I'm talking about. And I know it's a shoujo series, which, depending on your interest, may not always be there. But I can honestly say, for being a shoujo series, and I am not like too sappy, gushy shoujo type fan, it definitely appeals. It's kind of like One Piece in that way for me, or Fairy Tail. Yes, it has its core audience, but it has tones that can appeal to everyone.
And Fruits Basket the same way. It appeals to a male audience as much as it appeals to a female audience.
And then I think, finally, before we wrap up, I want to talk about Captain Marvel. That I know it's probably going to come we're probably going to end up maybe recording another podcast beforehand. I don't entirely know, because Real World is taking precedence not long after this podcast comes out. But if we can, maybe before we see the movie, if we can fit in a podcast beforehand, we might talk about some elements of what we love about Captain Marvel to hype ourselves and you up. Otherwise, after the movie comes out, we will definitely incorporate that into our next podcast.
Yeah, that'll probably be how we're likely are opening our next podcast.
Most likely.
Yeah. So, in the comments section below, leave comments on tabletop games, board games, card games that you enjoy. If it's ended up helping you with social interaction at any point, or if you've ever used tabletop gaming to help yourself in a social situation that you were finding yourself a little uncomfortable in.
And definitely also let us know. Please engage with us and let us know what you've done in the last week. We definitely want to hear from you if you've watched a lot of awesome movies or anime series or even reality television. My God, we can gush about drag queens if you want. But please let us know. We're not begging for comments, but we definitely want you to feel like we're not just talking at you. So definitely let us know what you think. And until next time, bye.
Night.